Imagine you spend an entire week coordinating this massive 50 email chain,
Oh, yeah. The absolute worst.
right? You're pinging different departments, you're, navigating personalities, and just trying to get everyone aligned on a simple project update.
And it feels like real work.
It does. It feels exhausting. But then you watch an AI agent summarize that entire thread, extract the key decisions, and draft the perfect response in like, what, 4 seconds?
Basically instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually when we talk about that kind of artificial intelligence entering the workforce, the immediate reaction is this reflexive panic about jobs. It's a very transactional fear.
Right, because it's simple, clean math for most people. I mean, a human does a specific task, a machine learns how to do that exact same task instantly, and so, well, therefore, the human is out of a paycheck.
Exactly.
It's just a one-to-one replacement in our minds.
It is. And honestly, it's almost a comforting narrative because it's just so straightforward to understand.
Yeah, it's tangible.
But today, we're taking a deep dive into an entirely different perspective on this. We're looking at a disruption that is far bigger and significantly more uncomfortable than just crossing items off a to-do list.
Much more uncomfortable.
Yeah, we're unpacking the idea that automation isn't just arriving to take over our work, it's arriving to expose the entire simulation of modern work culture.
It's a complete existential disruption. I mean, to really grasp what's happening here, we have to look at the daily grind not as an economic necessity, but as a giant performance.
Like a play.
Exactly like a play. And for decades, everybody just, quietly agreed to keep acting inside it.
Okay, so let's unpack this setup. If we want to understand why the arrival of advanced AI is hitting the collective human psyche so incredibly hard, we first have to examine the environment it's walking into.
The stage itself.
This stage, right?
Yeah.
And when you actually step back and look at the physical and behavioral markers of this simulation, they're absolutely everywhere.
Oh, they're just the background noise of our lives at this point. I mean, it's the hum of those fluorescent office lights.
Yeah.
It's that ritualistic beep of the badge swipe at the front door every single morning.
Yeah.
It's the endless calendar invites for, syncs and stand-ups. And perhaps most significantly, it's the fake urgency.
Oh, the fake urgency that permeates almost every single email thread.
Yes.
It's just the standard corporate routine you accept as reality. Like, you wake up to an alarm, you sit in commuter traffic, you swipe the badge to prove you're physically present.
Just to prove you're there.
Right. Then you sit down to answer emails that, if we're honest, probably didn't need to be sent in the first place.
Definitely didn't.
You attend meetings that are literally just about planning other meetings.
Right.
You perform urgency.
Yeah.
Adding those little red exclamation points or replying at 8 p.m. just so people know you're committed.
To show you're a team player.
Exactly. You protect your position on the org chart, you wait for Friday, and you just repeat that loop until retirement.
Yeah.
It is exactly like being an extra on a massive movie set where nobody actually knows what the movie's about.
That is the perfect way to look at it.
Everyone is just hitting their marks because someone somewhere yelled action.
Right. You're hitting your marks, you're saying your lines, and you're hitting the expected emotional beats of a quote-unquote professional.
Right.
And you're doing all of this regardless of whether the actual output matters to the world at all.
Okay, but I do have to push back here a little bit.
Sure.
Because I can't just accept that all organizational structure is purely theater. Like a massive global company, say a logistics firm, coordinating supply chains across 30 countries that can't just run on vibes.
No, definitely not.
Right, it needs predictability. So isn't a lot of this so-called theater actually just the necessary process required to, keep the lights on and keep thousands of people coordinated?
Well, that's a really crucial distinction to make. Of course, baseline coordination is necessary. I mean, shipping a physical product across the globe requires logistics.
Right.
But there is a massive difference between actual productivity and what we can call process theater.
Process theater.
Yeah. Over the decades, the corporate system mutated. As organizations grew larger and, more complex, the structures built to manage the work eventually superseded the work itself.
Wow.
Humans were subtly trained to confuse obedience to the process with actual professionalism.
So the system basically stopped rewarding the outcome and started rewarding the compliance.
Precisely. People were rewarded for just being predictable.
Right.
They were praised for preserving the process, even when that specific process had become completely redundant. And over time, the culture began to signal that exhaustion was somehow the same thing as ambition.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah,
We took this massive, wildly inefficient performance and we wrapped it in serious-sounding buzzwords.
like strategic alignment.
Strategic alignment, operational excellence, all of that. But underneath those words, it wasn't about creating value. It was status theater. It was authority theater.
So if the workplace is actually a giant stage, and we've all been heavily incentivized to perform this process theater, what happens to the actors when machines suddenly walk onto the set?
That's the big question.
Because we aren't talking about physical robots moving boxes anymore. We're talking about large language models.
Right, AI agents.
Systems that can read, synthesize, route information, and communicate. What happens when they start performing our parts flawlessly?
This is where we move from the disruption of the environment to the disruption of the self.
The self, okay?
And this is the core crisis, because the real threat here isn't just job loss, it's identity loss.
Identity loss. That makes total sense because for generations now, we've been explicitly conditioned to build our entire sense of value around our titles.
Exactly.
You aren't just a person doing a set of tasks. You become the costume you put on. You are the manager. You are the director of operations. You're the senior analyst.
They are literal identity costumes. And we strap them on every single morning.
Yeah.
We let them dictate our social standing, our confidence, even how we introduce ourselves at dinner parties.
And we built our self-worth around the incredibly rigid tasks associated with those costumes.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking about the person whose entire professional pride is anchored in the spreadsheet dungeon.
Oh, the spreadsheet dungeon.
You know, maintaining that one massive Excel file that essentially runs the department.
Or the person who owns the weekly status report.
Exactly. Or the team navigating the customer service scripts, or just the endless scheduling loops.
But here's the real tragedy in all of this. Think about what we had to trade away to fit into those incredibly narrow roles.
What do you mean?
Well, to survive inside the simulation, we actually had to act like machines long before the machines ever arrived.
Oh, wow. That's heavy.
We traded our natural creativity for compliance. We traded human curiosity for just following a rigid set of instructions.
Right.
We traded real wisdom for metric dashboards. And we traded genuine human connection for networking.
So we suppressed the very traits that make us human just to be a slow, inefficient cog in a corporate simulation.
Exactly.
And then the technology reaches a tipping point. An AI agent walks in, looks at that massive spreadsheet, processes the data in real time, updates the dashboard, and drafts the status report in seconds.
All without breaking a sweat.
Right. It just completely reveals the joke. But that brings up a really harsh realization.
Which is?
If an unconscious algorithm, a probability engine that doesn't feel, doesn't think, and doesn't care, if it can completely master the thing you build your whole identity around, does that mean your role was never actually a source of human value in the first place?
And there it is. That is the ultimate ego hit.
Yeah.
And it's exactly why the arrival of this technology feels so deeply, viscerally uncomfortable for people. I mean, it's holding up a mirror.
It forces you to look at your reflection and realize you might have spent the last 15 years of your life suppressing your own humanity just to protect a title.
Right.
Instead of actually fighting for good ideas.
It's devastating when you realize you spent your prime years seeking approval from a completely artificial hierarchy instead of seeking actual meaning.
Wow.
Because a large language model isn't doing anything uniquely human. It's just incredibly good at pattern matching.
Right. It's just predicting the next word.
Exactly. So if an AI can perfectly replicate your job, it simply means your job was entirely predictable. You were never the role. You were just a human trapped inside a robotic function.
Okay, so let's follow that logic up the ladder.
Okay.
If the individual actor realizes their costume is completely fake and their daily tasks were just a performance, what happens to the people directing the play?
The managers.
Right, because if I'm a middle manager and my entire identity is based on routing information between junior employees and senior executives, and then AI suddenly routes all that information instantly, I'm managing an empty room.
Exactly.
The whole corporate hierarchy suddenly looks incredibly fragile.
Well, it doesn't just look fragile. It completely collapses under its own weight.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. To understand why, you have to look at the stark contrast between human emotional baggage and a machine's absolute lack of ego.
The lack of ego changes the entire dynamic.
It changes everything.
A machine doesn't need external validation.
Mm.
It doesn't care about getting a shout out on a LinkedIn post.
Nope.
It doesn't need a coffee break to complain about a coworker. And it certainly isn't going to say, let's circle back on this next week just to sound important in a meeting.
Definitely not.
My absolute favorite example of this from the source material is so highly specific, but so relatable.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
An AI agent is never going to be the manager named Brad who asks for a quote-unquote quick sync that mysteriously turns into a 47-minute hostage situation.
Yes, we have all worked with a Brad.
Everyone knows a Brad.
And we have all been trapped in that exact hostage situation. But let's look at the mechanics of why Brad does that.
Okay, why does he?
He doesn't hold a 47-minute meeting because the business problem requires it.
Right.
He does it to assert dominance, to feel heard, basically to justify his salary.
Right.
It's the definition of ego leadership. And ego leadership fundamentally requires people performing beneath it.
It needs an audience.
Exactly. It feeds on hierarchy. It needs fear, it needs obedience, and it needs everyone in the room to collectively agree to the illusion that the office chair is a throne.
But the algorithm doesn't care about the throne.
It doesn't care at all.
It doesn't get intimidated by passive-aggressive corporate vocabulary. You can't micromanage a piece of code.
You really can't. And because of that, automation doesn't just replace tasks. It shatters the foundational stories the business world has been telling itself for generations.
Like what kind of stories?
Well, it shatters the story that being perpetually busy equates to being valuable.
Oh,
It shatters the illusion that hierarchical rank naturally equates to intelligence.
right.
And it exposes the fact that artificial scarcity, locking access to information behind layers of management, isn't the natural order of things.
It really is the ultimate Emperor's New Clothes scenario.
That's a great way to put it.
Only in this modern version, the Emperor isn't walking around naked. The Emperor is wearing a corporate fleece vest, sipping a $50 macchiato, and hosting a quarterly earnings call, using words like synergy and bandwidth.
Yep, the modern uniform.
And the machine is just the kid in the crowd pointing out that the entire thing is make-believe. The gate, the key, the toll booth you had to pay to get your ideas heard, they were all totally fake.
And when you connect this to the bigger picture, the absolute most dangerous thing a machine does to a performance-based corporate system isn't automating a workflow.
What is it then?
The danger is that the machine simply looks at this massive, bloated, ego-driven hierarchy and objectively asks, is this necessary?
Wow. Just the mechanism of the technology asking, is this necessary, threatens the entire structure of status theater.
Right.
Because if the machine can coordinate the project, analyze the data, and generate the insights instantly, the 10 layers of management routing that data are suddenly exposed as pure overhead.
Because the answer to that question, more often than not, is no, it wasn't necessary.
It was just overhead.
It was just humans maintaining a simulation because they were too afraid or, honestly, too comfortable to imagine anything better.
Okay, so we've torn down the set. The corporate theater is ending, the identity costumes are lying on the floor, and Brad's 47-minute hostage meetings are completely obsolete.
Thank goodness.
Seriously. But what is actually left? If we aren't supposed to be pretending to be robots anymore, where does this leave us?
It's a valid concern.
Because I don't want to just talk about the collapse of the old system. There has to be a pivot to what happens next.
There is, and it's a massive paradigm shift. We can call it the inversion.
Inversion.
Think about the entirety of the industrial and information ages. The old system looked at a human being and said, you are valuable because you can serve the process.
Right.
Your worth is determined by how well you act as a predictable cog in this massive machine.
Yeah.
But automation forces a radical inversion of that exact thought. It asks, what if humans were never supposed to be the process in the first place?
But if we aren't the process, then where does our true unautomatable value actually lie?
It lies in the exact traits that the corporate simulation historically punished, suppressed, or just totally ignored.
Like what?
True human value is found in judgment. It's found in taste.
Taste is such a great example. Like an AI can generate 1,000 marketing emails based on past performance data.
In seconds.
Right. But knowing why one specific turn of phrase will resonate with a human being's anxiety or joy in this exact cultural moment, that requires taste.
It really does.
It requires moral imagination.
Yes, moral imagination, emotional intelligence, the raw courage to challenge the status quo, and the vision to create something entirely unprecedented rather than just, optimizing something that already exists.
And the absolute beauty of those specific traits is that they cannot be automated.
No, they can't.
You can't stamp out moral imagination on a digital assembly line. You can't hoard emotional intelligence,
Exactly.
you can't take human courage and lock it behind a software subscription portal with 3 pricing tiers and a little contact sales button.
That's entirely the point.
Those are profoundly, stubbornly human qualities.
You just cannot commodify the core of what makes us human.
Yeah.
And because of that, the future doesn't belong to the people who are best at following instructions.
Who does it belong to then?
It belongs to an entirely different kind of person. It belongs to the independent thinkers.
Yeah.
The builders, the creators, the people who have the capacity to ask the hard questions, connect disparate ideas, and navigate ambiguity without needing a manager to tell them what to do.
This means the future isn't some depressing, losing game where you're constantly trying to outcompute a machine.
Right, you don't have to race it.
You don't have to try to act more mechanical, more efficient, or more compliant than an AI. The real unlock here is giving yourself permission to stop performing.
That's exactly it. The conversation constantly revolves around, well, what jobs will AI replace?
Right, that's what everyone asks.
But that's the wrong question. The much deeper, much more important question is what parts of human life were never supposed to be jobs in the first place?
Wow.
We were never supposed to be data entry machines. The goal of this incredible technological shift isn't to save the old performance.
No?
The goal is to achieve a society with less ego, less artificial scarcity, and to finally start building systems for humanity rather than forcing humanity to fit into the systems.
So to pull all of this together, what we've really discovered in this deep dive is that automation isn't the villain it's often made out to be.
Not at all.
It's not just a vacuum cleaner coming to suck up our livelihoods.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually acting as a massive forcing function.
Yeah, right.
Pulling back the frame of our daily lives to expose the stage, the wires, and the rigid scripts we've been reading from for decades.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it is ultimately freeing us from roles we were never meant to play.
It's completely destroying the illusion, which, make no mistake, is going to be incredibly painful at first.
Sure.
We are going to grieve those identities. But in the long run, it is profoundly liberating.
Absolutely. We're stepping off the stage and back into reality.
Uh-huh.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm going to hand it over for one final thought to leave you with, building on everything we've just unpacked today.
Think about this. If this corporate theater truly is collapsing, and those rigid identity costumes are finally coming off, how will you define yourself the next time you meet someone new?
It's a great question.
When you can no longer rely on that automatic, deeply ingrained icebreaker, so what do you do for a living? Who are you when the costume is gone?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Take a breath, take off the costume, and carry this new lens with you the next time you find yourself sitting in a meeting of fake urgency. We'll catch you next time.